Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's Molly and today I am going to be doing probably one of my harder videos to record. You may have noticed that I have not uploaded many long videos to my channel for quite a few weeks, partly because I was on holiday, then I have been depressed and found it difficult to actually pick the camera up to do anything. Part of it's imposter syndrome, part of it is you can't do this, why are you making a show yourself, and the other part is because I knew I needed to do, or wanted to do this video and was scared. But here we are. I'm going to be starting today the journey with you for getting my autism diagnosis. Now I am going to go through the reasons that I believe personally that I may be on the spectrum. I'm going to discuss why my doctor and certain other people have believed this for some time. I have got my trusty notepad which has my list of things I want to talk about to try and keep everything in my brain, and I'm going to discuss the steps that I've already taken, and then hopefully in a few weeks, a few months, however long it takes for something else to happen, I will go through those steps with you as well. So this is just my experience as an adult female. I know that there is not as much representation, probably a little bit more now with social media and everything, but there isn't usually, which I think is part of the problem. Maybe that's why I'm 25 with no diagnosis, but we will see. Quick disclaimer, I am not a medical professional, I am not a mental health professional, I am not an autism professional. Everything that I talk about in this video is my own experiences, my own symptoms, my own lived experience and how I personally feel. So please, if you do have any of these symptoms, this does not mean that you're autistic. If you don't have any of these symptoms and you are autistic, then please don't think, or if you think that I am not autistic based on the symptoms that I have shown, or you think that I've self-diagnosed and it's incorrect, or you think that you know someone that's autistic and they have different symptoms or not the same ones, this is just my personal experience. And I believe with anything, the only person that truly knows what that person is experiencing, whether it's an illness, a mental health condition, a trauma, is the person that's going through it. So I'm not trying to offend anyone, I am not trying to teach anybody or convince anybody. This is just my lived experience of trying to get my diagnosis, and I hope it helps somebody. I'm going to talk to you first of all about my own experiences. I have a list of symptoms that I have experienced that I actually was told to write down by my doctor before I spoke to him, and then also before I contacted the autistic, I was going to say autistic charity, but it's not an autistic charity, it's the people who can get you an official diagnosis in the UK. I think it depends area to area, because the one that I've specifically been told to contact is for my specific area, so that's how it works here, but I will go through it in more detail in a moment. But he had asked me to write down all of the things that I think, looking back or looking and thinking about, may be signs of autism back from when I was a child to now, because I find it really helps, and he said it can really help when you're putting it down so that you don't forget what it is you're trying to talk about, because it can be easy to just lose complete track. And also I had my previous, or I suppose it's still the same doctor, but I'd spoken to two. My doctor that I have a lot more contact with had mentioned it previously and asked if I'd ever pursued a official diagnosis, being suggested by a therapist of mine. And also I think deep down I always had a feeling, I definitely had a feeling of being different. But I just put that down to all my other issues and problems. So I am going to go through the list anyway that I went through with my doctor. So the first thing on the list I put was human contact, and by human contact I mean lack of or not wanting. Ever since I was a child, when I think back, I did not like being touched. I didn't like hugs. I didn't like kisses, even in a family setting. And I always remember I had uncles who, when they would come visit and they'd be leaving, they would want a hug and a kiss. And my little sister was always very touchy-feely, like really wanted to hug and get as much of that attention as she could. I hated it. I would visibly it would repulse me. I would push away. People used to say I was mean, that I wasn't being very nice. Even at like bedtime and stuff, if my mum or dad, tended to be my dad, would say, come and give us a hug, I hated it, didn't like it. And that continued really in most aspects. There's certain people that I will hug, but it has to be on my terms, and it is still awkward, to be completely honest, most of the time. And I don't mind it also in a relationship setting, as long as it's consensual and comfortable. But I had always put the lack of human touch and wanting human touch, and if physical, like making me, the idea of it physically making me uncomfortable, I always put it down to if incidents that have happened to me in the past I've talked about on this channel. But once I actually sat down and thought about it, I realised actually I was always this way, and it made me think, okay, maybe that is unusual, which is why I put it down. The second one is voice level. Now, my boyfriend goes crazy about this, not in a real mad crazy way, like he's not horrible about it, he's not nasty, but I didn't realise this was as much of a problem as it was until it was pointed out, or I realised people point out. But I mean, it's only just recently that I realised this, and it's obviously been going on my entire life. I'm not the best at controlling my volume of my voice, like in public settings, when I'm out, even in the house, I'll just start talking, but apparently I'm talking really loud, and it happens. I mean, my boyfriend must have to tell me to volume down like 4, 5, 6 times a day. I don't realise that I'm shouting, I'm just talking. But this is something apparently that I do a lot, and that's something that I had noticed. Also, that kind of goes alongside that is saying inappropriate things. I don't mean like rude things, but I will sometimes just, apparently I can make people feel awkward or uncomfortable because, say for example, my nan committed suicide, and sometimes if I'm talking and I will say, it's hard to put into, I would just be talking to a group of people that I don't really know, and I would say, oh yeah, this thing happened when I was younger, it was with my dead nan, or it was with the nan that's dead, or with the nan that killed herself. Like, to me, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it makes people feel awkward. Or like, my mum is not alive and I will say, oh yeah, my mum's dead, or say for example somebody says a joke or something and I will just say, yes, she's dead. But I would say that to anybody. It doesn't matter if I don't really know them, if I've only just met them. The only thing I wouldn't with children, but I'm different with children, I'm very good with children actually. But anyway, that's beside the point. I would just basically bring up anything in a situation that sometimes can make me feel uncomfortable. Or another thing that people always say is, oh, you really brought the mood down, or way to my explanation just. So sometimes, like, I will have seen something, or there'll have been a serial killer or something that has took my interest, and it won't fit into the conversation, but I want to talk about something as well and join in on the conversation. So I will say something that I might have watched or seen in the news is a big one, and a lot of people, and this has happened a lot throughout my life, will kind of be like, well, where did that even come from, or that doesn't fit into the conversation, or you've brought the mood down. But I just see it as just trying to have a conversation, like regardless of what the subject is what I'm trying to say. Then the next thing is getting stressed watching new shows. The amount of films, TV shows that I have not finished, and it drives my boyfriend insane because I get stressed. I don't know if it's that I get attached to the characters. Sometimes just the situations stress me out, and I can really love the show, and it's not that the show is too violent or too scary or too depressing. I can't explain it. It's if I'm worried, say there's a main character and I'm worried that they are going to do something to upset the friend in the show, or I think that they're going to do something. I used to call it TV anxiety. It's still something that I'm working on. And a lot of the time I'll get attached to the show or a character and then I can't finish it because I'm worried something bad will happen or I won't like it. It's hard to explain. I don't know if anyone experiences this, but then sometimes I can get really into a show and then that's all I want to watch. Stranger Things, all I want to watch. And I become, I wouldn't say obsessed with it, but it becomes my thing. It almost becomes my entire personality. And then that can get annoying for people as well. It was Harry Potter, that was just my special interest in general as a child, going into, I'd say adulthood. It was just the thing I would talk about, it was my entire personality, my conversation starter. I would want to buy everything Harry Potter, I'd want to own everything Harry Potter, I'd want to talk about everything, I'd want to watch the shows. And also, in the same way as I feel uncomfortable sometimes watching new things, I also would get stuck on watching the same thing. So as a child, I would go to bed and watch the same Harry Potter every night for months. I would need to have it on to be able to go to sleep, and it would be the same one for months until I got a feeling that, it's hard to explain, until I got like a feeling I could change. And one night I would put the second one on, say, and then I would watch that for months every single night. And I'm not the best sleeper, so it's not like I was putting it on and falling asleep. I was watching it, and then if I watched it all the way through, that's probably how I ended up on a new one, because I would watch it all the way through and then be like, okay, I'll put the next one on, and then that would become the one that I watched every night. That's just something that I did, and I would become extremely distressed if it would be turned off or I wasn't allowed to put it on, depending on what mood my mum was in, and I would full-blown meltdown to the point of either trying to put it on or crying myself to sleep. Sitting in a particular seat, this especially was a problem as a child. I would have a specific seat that I would attach myself to, and I would want to sit in that seat in the house. And my sister, as siblings do, would always sit in the seat to try and wind me up, but because I was easy to wind up, I would become so distressed, so upset. But I do become attached, which is another thing on the list, to certain things. There's a certain knife and fork that I eat with in this house. I won't eat with another knife and fork. I've got my own plate, but those things can change. It's how it feels, but once something becomes something, that probably doesn't make sense to many people, but once something becomes my something, that is all I will use until something else comes along and replaces it or something happens to it. And yeah, knife, fork are the same. The plate that I eat off is the same, and I feel too uncomfortable. I wouldn't be able to eat without that one. If it's not washed, I will just wash it. It's hard to explain. Also, the only thing that I still have from my childhood, really, that managed to survive everything was this teddy, Snoozums. He became a complete attachment well over the age that one would normally have attachments. He's been in every single house near enough that I've stayed in. I don't sleep with him anymore. He's got a place on wherever it is that he's residing, on a shelf or whatever. But especially when I was younger, it was a massive attachment, and I think I've probably had it since I was 2. So yeah, that and necklaces or a bracelet, or once I've put that on, it stays on. until it breaks or I need a new one. I've never been able to be that person who will wear like a necklace just to go with an outfit, because I become attached to the item and then I can't change it or swap it. I'll just keep that one, if that makes sense. So that is another thing as well. I struggled to keep and make friends, especially in school. I was definitely an outsider. Secondary school was horrific for me. Yeah, sorry, I'm not having a good day, but I really want to get this video done. Secondary school was not a good day. It was not a good time for me. People say, oh, I wish I could go back. I would never want to go back. There was a few people now when I think about it that I'm talking about maybe one or two people that I would say, yeah, eventually they were friends, but everyone else was either laughing at me, behind my back to me. I was spat at. I was definitely laughed at. I was ridiculed. I was made to feel stupid. I was made to look stupid. And it was awful and I hated it and I never understood why. I always felt alone. School was awful and then I'd go home and home was awful as well. And it was just a really grim, bleak time for me. But eventually I got out of school, finished school. So we're not there anymore, but I still do struggle to keep friends. I've got a select few friends. I can count them on my hands. But they understand my struggle with, I'm not very good at sending messages or keeping in contact with people over the phone. I love seeing them when I do see them. I just forget, and it sounds awful because it sounds like I don't care about them, and it's not that. I can feel just as strongly about my friendship with someone, but then I will not realise that I haven't spoken to them in 6 months. Or I'll notice that they messaged me and I was supposed to answer it and I didn't message it and now it's been weeks. But my good friend understands that, and I do try. I just struggle with speaking to people over the phone, especially on phone calls. I hate phone calls, but messages as well. I'm not very good at them. So that's another thing. I like being alone, although I used to think I hated being alone because I had separation anxiety and the idea of being left. And a lot of that comes from my childhood. But I do like what I learned and I realised is I like being alone. But I also like being alone with someone. Me and my partner will still go out, we'll still do things. I will still go to occasions and stuff with them and I feel comfortable when I'm around people that I know. We will watch films or TV shows together, but I also enjoy being in my room if I feel overwhelmed, I'm tired, and I also enjoy sitting, listening or watching YouTube with my headphones in while he's watching football or something else that I'm not interested in. I enjoy that time. That time to me is we're not ignoring each other, we're just comfortable in each other's presence without needing constant conversation, but then we do also talk to each other a lot as well, if that makes sense. I know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, I need to have alone time to function, otherwise I just get overwhelmed. But if I get too much of it, I end up in a depressed hole. I think I touched on this one about having obsessions and then being all I want to talk about, but then it kind of annoying people because I will just go on and on and on and on and on. That's hard, especially when it's my way of trying to talk with people and they might not necessarily be interested in it, but I still want to speak to them about it. So yeah, there's that. Skin picking, I have always picked my thumbs since I can remember. I've got an issue with skin picking in general. I even used to be obsessed with this is gross, but my dad had burnt his head. Well, it caught fire when he was younger and he used to have dandruff, and I used to be obsessed with trying to pick it when I was a kid. I know that's strange. And picking my thumbs, picking at little spots or imperfections. I definitely talk a lot with my hands. I did definitely used to flap my hands when I was excited, but it's something that I learned and have learned to stop myself doing. I think because it looks weird, but it doesn't. I'm not saying people that do that are weird or look weird. I just mean that in my head I believed that looks weird, don't do it. Also, eye contact makes me uncomfortable, but I do make eye contact or force myself to make eye contact in certain situations. In a conversation though, I would much rather be talking and not looking directly in someone's eyes. It's not comfortable for me, but it's something that I've learned myself to be able to do. And then another thing, there's so many other things, but these are just the things that I'd written down. Meltdowns as a child. Obviously I did have other issues going on, so I'm just talking I'm trying to think of incidents that would be classed as meltdowns in a normal environment, if that makes sense. And I know that before for up until when I was teen, I would say early teens, before any family event or social gathering, I remember I used to have meltdowns, whether it was over, and I'd always feel uncomfortable. I don't think I realised that I was anxious at the time. Nobody really realised that, and I'd always find something to then latch onto so that I could then have that meltdown. So it'd be, I don't look nice, I don't feel nice, my hair's horrible, I'm ugly, but I would just completely melt down, and everyone used to get really annoyed with me. But now looking back at it, I realise it wasn't normal to have such meltdowns like that, like hysterical crying. And in other situations when I would get frustrated and I didn't know how to express myself, meltdowns, screaming, shouting. I even have had, even as I've got older, it's not the same, and I'm in an environment luckily now where I don't need to really do that anyway, but my meltdowns have become a lot more internal, like physically, like squeezing, silent screams is the only way I can explain it. But that doesn't happen very often. I still do have panic attacks, anxiety attacks, zoning out, obviously have OCD, get extremely depressed. But anyway, I'm going off topic. And I've also always been good with people with autism and children. It's always been something that's been picked up on and spoken about. I love spending time with children and like playing with them and doing whatever it is that they want to do. I've got a lot of patience with that, but I struggle with patience with adults also seeing things black and white, but not necessarily the way people would think. I mean more, say for example, if there's a discussion about gender or there's a discussion about homophobia, I don't understand. I just physically can't understand why you would judge someone based on what their gender is, what they want to be known as, whether they want to have like anything. That's just an example, like, or somebody could not like someone just because they are gay, and I get really wound up. I can't understand. I can understand other things, like when people are upset or mad or get angry at you or say something and they don't, because I take on people's, well, I'll talk about that in a minute actually, but in terms of stuff like that, I can't understand it. It's got nothing to do with you, it doesn't affect you, so why are you angry about that? Why are you so upset that somebody else wants to do this with their life or wants to do that with their life? To my own detriment really, because a lot of people just say, just leave them, don't say anything. And when it's family and friends, it can be a little bit awkward because I can't help myself and I don't understand it. But the thing that put me off, not put me off, but the reason I always thought I can't be autistic, and again, I don't mean this is a bad thing in anybody who is autistic that does struggle with this. It's not a bad thing, it's just a difference between people. We all have differences, but I believed ignorantly that people with autism, all people with autism, either don't have empathy or can't put themselves in other people's shoes or feel other people's emotions. And that is something I struggle with on the opposite side. I take on people's emotions, but to the extreme, to the point where if somebody is a little bit upset about something, I can feel it's like painfully their emotion. If they're stressed, if they're angry, and sometimes to the point they'll say they're not, I know they are because I can feel it. Even TV shows, films, if something bad happens to someone, I feel their pain, I feel their stress, and I can put myself in other people's shoes. I can see why they would think, like, why, say if someone's nasty to someone one day, but I know that they've got something going on in their life, I can understand that that's why they've lashed out, or that's why they've shouted out. And I basically wrongly believe, but I've learned since, that everybody on a spectrum or every autistic person is different, and just because some people struggle with that, others don't, but might struggle more with something else. And so anyway, I agreed when I went through my symptoms with my other doctor, after my previous doctor, or my other doctor had mentioned it and I felt ready, he said, based off what we discussed and conversation that we had, that it's his belief that I am, but that if I wanted to go and get a official diagnosis, because he can't officially diagnose, then he'd give me the referral to go, which is what I've done, and I'm now waiting to hear back. Part of me is really happy. I don't look it right now because I'm really struggling, but part of me is really happy that I am going forward with this. Part of me is scared. Part of me is scared because I think I understand the gravity of other people's opinions, even though they shouldn't matter. And I know that a lot of people would look at me and say, no, she's not. Like, oh, no, you're not because you can do this. No, you're not because you can do that. No, you don't see me. I see that happening to other people. And that's, but I also have always known, and I think it's sad. And when I think back to my childhood and I look at it, I just think, why didn't people see it? I was kind of, well, I was, because of my experience anyway, I was very alienated as a child by everybody. Well, not everybody. There's certain people, like my sisters, but by most of my family. I've been in school, by certain teachers, by boys, by friends. And I think I just wished, but I suppose it's not just in relation to this, it's into everything. I wish that people or someone had to just come and fix things or realise. But I also think that the alienation, people alienated me, but nobody could stop to think why. And I think that's difficult. And I think maybe if people had known, but maybe it wouldn't have made a difference, or maybe I'd be a different person if it had. So I always say, we've been through what we've been through, we can't change that, look for the future. But I do worry about people's opinions and what people might say. But at the end of the day, my truth is my truth. I know myself, my own experiences, and they may come back and say, no, we don't believe you are. And then I can deal with that from there. I know that obviously I don't know how I'll feel about that. It's weird to say I would be disappointed. That's probably not the right way to explain it. But I suppose we're always looking for answers to why things happen, or why we are the way we are, but I will deal with that when it comes. So I think that's everything for now. I'm sorry if this video was a little bit all over the place. Like I said, I'm having a bad day, but I decided to just do the video. I've been feeling very down lately, like, why are you doing this? Nobody's watching, nobody cares. Like, if people find out, people know like people I care about know, but if other people find out, what are they going to think? They're going to laugh at you. Why are you bothering? Nobody's interested. You're not helping anyone. But I know that I am helping some, because I've seen that from messages and stuff, and I'm hoping to just start to feel a bit better about everything. And hopefully this is a great step. But I would love to know your experiences being diagnosed, and if you've got any questions, please leave them down in the comments or get in touch with me on my socials. And please subscribe, please like and comment. It really does help. I'd really love to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I am on 700-ish now. That would really mean a lot to me. It's been an aim of mine since YouTube became a thing, basically, and I was watching in my room absolutely. If I knew now that I was putting videos out on YouTube, if I knew then, my mind would be blown. But that is everything for now. So I hope that this was okay. I will let you know as soon as I receive my response from the people and the next steps. So that is everything for now. But wherever that you are, I hope you have a lovely morning, day or night, and I will see you again next time. Bye.